everybody. My name is Rod Wortham, and we'd like to welcome you to Raceface. I'm here with
Katie Bacino.
And my very special guest, Mr. Bill Rasmussen, the founder of ESPN. So we're glad you're joining us. Again, this is our very first show. We've got a very special guest coming up here in the second part of our program. Mr. Kyle Benjamin is out there in Mooresville, North Carolina. Kyle is a NASCAR Next alumni driver, and we're really, really happy to have him on the show today. Let me tell you a little bit about what Raceface is all about. Raceface is really geared towards helping young drivers get noticed. We're going to be going back and talking to drivers that are 5 years old all the way up to 15, and then again, experienced drivers like Kyle Benjamin. But today on set, we have Mr. Bill Rasmussen join us. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rod. Glad to be here, especially the first show.
The first show. Can you imagine that? I mean, think about how proud we are to have our show, to have the founder, the father, basically the father of sports. That's what I heard Chris Berman call you a couple times.
George Washington, he calls me.
George Washington of sports.
Must be the white hair.
Must be. But anyway, Bill, can you just give us a little bit of a short background on where the idea of ESPN came from and your venture in that?
Well, first of all, the idea began when I got fired from a job. I had to do something, and starting a network seemed like a good idea. That's not quite the way it was, but actually I was working with the New England Whalers, a hockey team in the World Hockey Association, long since defunct. And I did get fired on Memorial Day weekend, 1978. And we had been talking to some cable operators about doing some other programming. And it seemed like basketball in Connecticut would be a good idea. And then we thought about football in Connecticut and baseball in Connecticut and a few other things. Went to the University of Connecticut. And the athletic director said he'd help us get to the NCAA. And so one thing led to another. The next thing you knew, from Memorial Day weekend, 1978, in October, I was meeting with the NCAA just a few months later. In the meantime, we had incorporated the company in July on Bastille Day, July 14th, 1978. And at that point, it was just incorporating an idea. And of course, the first thing that people said when we talked about doing nothing but sports 24 hours a day is it's never going to work. It's never going to work. We will not find enough programming. We'll not find enough people. And by the way, we're doing just fine as we are. We're getting our fees per month, monthly subscriber fees. Interestingly enough, and speaking of NASCAR, NASCAR had been on TV off and on up until 1979, when Neil Pilson from CBS, the president of CBS Sports, who I know, and we had some interesting times over the years, Neil negotiated with NASCAR, and the first flag-to-flag Daytona was in 1979. We had started talking about 24-hour sports in 1978, and I think he wanted to get a little head start. Shortly after that, of course, ESPN got into the NASCAR game, and then now it's, I don't know how many it is today. It's Turner, it's
every race.
Every race. Every Daytona since 1985 has been flag-to-flag. That's hard to believe, because in 1985, it was still the sport was there, but the sports industry was still in its infancy. It's amazing to me to look back now. ESPN went on the air in 1979, which is, 38 years? Something like that. And that was the beginning of all of this sports stuff. Before that, we used to get 30 seconds of lacrosse on ABC Wide World of Sports. The thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. Remember the guy coming down to...
I can remember the first time I watched a race on ABC Wide World of Sports. It was split between the Harlem Globetrotters, gymnastics, and NASCAR. And it seemed like every time it was time to go to NASCAR, the next thing you know, it'd be like, oh, we're cutting away. And somebody would be doing a backflip. And then, you're wanting to get back to the race to find out what's going on. And I had to watch the Harlem Globetrotters, which I was okay with the Harlem Globetrotters. Yeah. It was really just the gymnastics part that kind of got me. But I mean, ESPN definitely changed that scope when we started to see the whole race. And, the thing that cracks me up now is I'll talk to people that's, we had Earl Christie in the studio earlier today. And I thought, what would it be like if ESPN was to show up and actually film batting practice, because now, you know, the TV networks are covering practice, they're covering qualifying, and then they're covering all of the race. So
Everything.
it's really, racing, motorsports is more on television, I think, than any other sport
Just about it.
that's out there today.
And here's a name from maybe not from your history, Bud Palmer. In 1960, CBS tried an experiment, black and white TV, and they did the Daytona qualifying races. I don't even know what that means.
That is correct.
In 1960.
1960.
Now, I don't know what kind of cars they were driving, what kind of speeds they were. Might not even remember any drivers from that era, but you probably know them from your history who was back there. But I think that ESPN opened up, as you say, anything but batting practice, I guess, at this point. But it has been an integral part of ESPN. They began literally a long-term relationship in 1981 and then have been in and out since then, as all the networks have. It's become a huge, huge rights fee addition for any network to take on NASCAR these days.
Well, Katie, I think you had a question for Bill.
I do. Bill, I know that ESPN had a huge part of the come up of NASCAR. Do you think NASCAR would be anywhere it is today without the help of ESPN?
I think it's the idea of sports 24 hours a day that allowed the networks to expand their ideas. When there were just the three networks before ESPN got involved, they had to take care of entertainment and news and sports and so on, and no sport really got any time. There were only like 25 major football games on an entire season. And now
it's really
ESPN does like 40 in a weekend.
Right, really gets to spotlight NASCAR now.
I think it's the 24-hour idea that opened up the eyes of everyone that you could cover more and more sports.
Right.
And one little side effect, 25 games I mentioned in an entire football season before ESPN went on the air. The year before last, ESPN live streamed the equivalent of 156,000 hours of sports.
That's amazing.
The appetite for sports in America and around the world is just insatiable. NASCAR, baseball, football, whatever it is, but sports, ESPN's there and you can get to see it.
It's incredible. They thought you were crazy for wanting to do it 24 hours, but look at you now.
Some still think that.
Yeah.
I know we got hopefully a lot of young race car drivers that are out there that are kind of looking at us going, really? You know, I watch everything today that I watch is on my phone, it's on my iPad, it's everything. But believe me, back in the day, it was very limited, the exposure that people got into racing. So you young race car drivers out there, you're very, very fortunate that you have the ability to get seen like you do today. Well, I tell you what, we're going to be taking a short break here, and we're going to be back. And when we come back, we're going to be back with NASCAR driver, Mr. Kyle Benjamin. So we'll be right back.
Christie from Super Bowl III, New York Jets. That's right, they call me Earl the Twirl Christie, and I'm going to be with my great co-host, Don't Do It Dave Constable. We're going to be having fun, talking to our great fans, and we're going to be on the great network. That's right, MNOTV.com, ITG Sports Show. That's In the Game Sports Talk, and that's on Mondays and Fridays at 1 p.m.
The Edge, Fridays at noon. If you're an entrepreneur looking for cutting-edge information, tips, tricks, secrets, expert interviews, it's all here at The Edge. Anything you need to build your business, this is the show to listen to. It's The Edge. Check us out Fridays at noon.
Well, welcome back, everybody. We hope you like this first edition of Race Face. Again, I'm here with my co-host, Katie, and my good friend, Mr. Bill Rasmussen from ESPN. But right now, we're going to go to Charlotte, North Carolina, and we're going to be talking to Mr. Kyle Benjamin. Kyle, can you hear us?
Yeah, I hear you.
All right. Well, welcome, Kyle, to the show.
Happy to have you.
Hey,
Glad to be on. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Kyle, how you doing? Bill here.
Good. How are you?
Just fine, sir.
You guys are going to be hearing a lot about Kyle and Bill's, the ventures of Kyle and Bill last year.
Oh, goodness.
In the K&N series, and there's some really funny stories about that. But you know what? I just want to give you guys a little bit of background about Kyle Benjamin. I think we've got a little stat sheet that we're going to pop up on the screen. But Kyle, very impressive 2016, man. I mean, we're talking about 14 starts in the K&N series, 9 top 5s, 11 top 10s. That I know of, only 1 DNF. I know that Kyle, he actually had 2 first. Legally in the K&N series, it actually was 3 first because you won that combined race between the K&N West and the K&N East. Is that not correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, I know that officially it ranks as a win, but Kyle was like, well, you know, he didn't really count it as a win, but it really was. I think if you look at the East statistics, it shows that he had 3 wins, then 11 top 10s, and then you had 4 ARCA races, which is really taking that next step up. And I know that you had 2 top 10s there and 2 top 5s. And you led some laps, I think, in almost every race that you ran. I don't know how many times that you set on the pole. So I think you got to kind of look back at it and think that 2016 was pretty successful.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, it was very successful. I had a lot of great people behind me, though, to help me get to that point. Just lucky to have the team that I had.
And you did all that in spite of the bad luck that I brought you in the very, very first race of the season over in Mobile, Alabama.
No, that was okay. That was actually a fun deal. I really enjoyed taking you out in that pace car and letting you get a feel for what it was like to be in a car, and also, you know, get in trouble as part of the experience, I guess. You know, thankfully you got me out of it. Even though you got me into it, you still got me out of it. Once you found out it was you, I was definitely busted out of jail.
So I know we were going to talk about this the third segment, but we kind of headed into this early. But let me ask you something. I can remember looking up and going, "Where's Kyle?" It's kind of like, "Where's Waldo?" But where was Kyle? Can you share with the viewing audience what your penalty actually was?
My penalty was directing car traffic into pit road. Me and my teammate that were in the car at the time were standing out on pit road directing traffic, basically.
And that was actually in the rain, too, because we were under rain delay. Is that, if I remember correctly?
Unfortunately, it was.
Yeah. So it was good, but, I mean, Kyle, really, think about it. How many race car drivers in the world do you know that could say they took the founder of ESPN for laps around a racetrack?
Nobody. I guess I'm the only one.
You are indeed, Kyle, the only one ever. And it was, I can't tell you how much I enjoyed that and how much I've told the story. And especially as you were explaining as the reason you go up to the top of the track, the reason you come down inside. And then when you started explaining where the crumbled asphalt was, and that's good sometimes and bad sometimes, or whatever it was you were telling me, I didn't learn everything that you told me that day, but it was an incredible experience from my point of view, and you enjoying it made it that much more so.
I'm sure on Kyle's part it was so worth it.
You know, the bad thing about this, Kyle, and I don't know, I'm going to kind of tell, I didn't cover this with Bill, but I'm going to tell the story anyway. Lynn was actually in the vehicle too, and you've turned her into now a NASCAR driver because as Bill tells me, she drives so much more aggressively now than she did from that day moving forward.
Way to go.
When we went from the top of the track and you dove down inside, as you slowly, obviously, as you explained it to us, she now does that coming out of circular parking lots to beat any car in sight to the toll gate. It's kind of scary. It wasn't scary at all with you, but it is with her.
Well, that's what I was hoping she'd get out of it. I was glad that I'm able to assist her with her driving out on the interstate and teach her a little something about racing.
Yeah, so that was really funny. But you know, that was a great day down in Mobile, Alabama. And like I said, to see it, you know, the great thing about this is is that I can remember, Bill and I headed back to the hotel later that evening, and one of the things that he brought up is he said, you know what? He goes, I was so impressed by the professionalism, the politeness, and everything about you, and that says a lot about you as a person. And I know that from our interactions over the 2016 year. And a lot of you know Mr. Lauren Rainier. Lauren's a very, very good friend of mine, and Lauren told me all about you prior to us coming down. And he goes, let me tell you something. You're going to be really, really impressed with him, not only as a driver, but also as a person. And you know what? I mean, anybody that knows anything about Lauren knows that that's about as high of recommendation as you can get in this industry.
And the other thing that, Kyle, that I would like to mention is the opportunity to meet your dad and your grandfather. And we got, us older folks began to have some time to spend together and talk about you while you were out doing your thing and working and driving and doing doing laps. But I thoroughly enjoyed the Benjamin family top to bottom or bottom to top, whichever order you care to go in. It was a distinct pleasure to meet all of you, and I still count you and I follow you on all of the various social media outlets.
We enjoyed it a lot too. I know my grandpa still talks about that. You definitely gave us a lot of stories to take home and tell people.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're getting ready to go out to our second break, but when we come back, we're going to kind of get back on schedule a little bit, and we're going to really talk to Kyle about, what it took for him to get to this point. So we're going to take a commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Earl Christie from Super Bowl III, New York Jets. That's right, they call me Earl the Twirl Christie, and I'm going to be with my great co-host, Don't Do It Dave Constable. We're going to be having fun, talking to our great fans, and we're going to be on the great network. That's right, MNOTV.com, ITG Sports Show. That's In the Game Sports Talk, and that's on Mondays and Fridays at 1 p.m.
The Edge, Fridays at noon. If you're an entrepreneur looking for cutting-edge information, tips, tricks, secrets, expert interviews, it's all here at The Edge. Anything you need to build your business, this is the show to listen to. It's The Edge. Check us out Fridays at noon.
Welcome back, everybody. Now we're going to get a part into the show where we're going to be talking to Kyle about his racing history. So, Kyle, if you could, at what age did you get started in your racing career?
I got started when I was 5 years old, and there's actually a funny story that goes along with that. I took the go-kart to the track for the first time. Me, my dad, and a long-time crew member that I still have actually working with us now. I ran on my feet a lap around that track because I was so excited. Ran one lap and puked all over the ground. I was about 5 years old, and my grandpa's standing behind me, and he goes, "That's a finely tuned athlete right there."
So my question is, was it something that you ate, or was it the nerves or the excitement?
I don't know if I was nervous or what. I guess I got sick to my stomach. I mean, I guess I wasn't capable of running that far. I don't know.
Well,
you think a 5-year-old can make it?
Well, I'm glad that wasn't an omen, okay, a sign, and you gave up on it. So that was a good thing. So So take us a little bit from that first lap around the racetrack and actually puking to the point of your timeline now as far as where you went from the go-karts, and kind of take us on a little journey, because I know we got a lot of young race car drivers that are out there that are sitting here thinking about, how do I get to where Kyle's at now? What do I need to do? Do you have some bits of wisdom, if you would, that you could share with them?
Well, there's definitely a ladder you have to climb. I quickly went out of go-karts and went straight to quarter midgets, which I feel like is a way better baseline to start in. Then on to Bandoleros, Pro Challenges, and then into super late models, which is probably the toughest proving ground that I've raced on by far. Those guys have been racing since they were 17 or 18, or like well into their 30s now, racing super late models and racing at the same tracks that I was racing at. So as a 12-year-old starting out in super late models, racing against people that have been doing it for 10 years and doing it at the same places, it takes a lot to go out and figure out how to beat them. And when you get to that point where you're able to go run with them and even eventually beat them, it takes you to that next level. And then after that, I went on to K&N and ARCA.
Even the K&N series, once you got there, that you found out that the competition was pretty stout there, because you got a lot of the Cup teams that are actually using that segment as driver development.
Definitely, and the reason they do that, those cars are so close to Cup cars, with how heavy they are. They have a little less motor, but they're built very similar. So you really get that feel that you get in a Cup car or ultimately an Xfinity car. That and an Xfinity car are very close. And you really get that feeling in a K&N car, so it helps you make that transition.
And I know that you got some good people behind you. I know over the last few days I've been able to talk to Kurt and to David a little bit at Rising Star Management. So can you tell us a little bit about how that works?
They're a really great group, and they've been behind me for a long time. And they really gave me some good opportunities to get in great situations.
Well, good. I know that Katie's got a question she's been dying to ask you.
I do. I know you love racing. That's very obvious. But of course, you have some other hobbies. So what else do you like to do when you're not racing?
I love to snowboard. Basically, that's like my getaway from racing. When I'm doing that, it really takes my mind off of racing, and it's something that I can do in the off season too. Also, I like to mountain bike. I find that the downhill sections in mountain biking correlate to racing a lot with the speed and adrenaline you get from doing something like that. Also very dangerous, but a lot of fun at the same time.
So here's my challenge. My challenge is, you took Bill for a ride around the track in Mobile. Is there a special place where you could take Bill out snowboarding?
Oh, God.
Well, I think we should start somewhere small before we start talking about going somewhere.
I was going to say, are there any flat surfaces around there? Now, Rod.
Not out west, but around here you can find some flat places you can do that.
Now, I have to tell both of you, and I'm not sure Rod even knows this, I actually refereed hockey for 11 years, so I might be able to get that snowboarding down.
Oh, wow. Well,
Actually,
kudos to
I
both
hear
of
he's
you.
I hear he's a pretty avid skater from what
Yep.
I understand.
Skated since I started skating when I was 5 years old. It's not quite like you were doing at age 5, but it ended up, and I actually did a lot of umpiring in baseball for 10, 11 years, and actually refereed hockey for 11 years. Wow. So if you want to go snowboarding, maybe just a 5-degree incline. How's that for a starter?
Well, that's a good place to start. It's actually funny. I can't skate either. Like, I can't. My ankles are so weak. I look funny on skates.
No,
They roll over.
You know what? That's a common misnomer. Your ankles aren't weak. They're strong enough to carry you around when you walk. It's just that you let them give in because you got just that skinny little blade on the ice. Strong ankle. You'll be a champion skater the next time you try it. Just keep that in mind. It's not your ankles. It's the skates.
I can't do snowboarding or ice skating, so you guys are just awesome.
Yeah, I've never put a pair of skates on in my
Yeah,
life.
no,
As a
I have.
basketball player, and basketball and skating doesn't mix or in the same season. So let me ask you a question, Kyle. I know that you got a race coming up. I believe a K&N race coming up in Greenville.
Yeah, that's our next one.
So are you all geared up for that? And I mean, are you going to be running? Who are you going to be running for?
Same team I did last year, MDM, different crew chief, Mark McFarland. I feel pretty confident going into it. The track's a little bit different now. It's got pavement in the corners, new pavement. It's kind of like Martinsville for people that have seen that place, but instead of concrete, brand new asphalt, but the whole rest of the track is old. So a little bit different, but I have a lot of experience at that place, and I actually won the last K&N race at Greenville, so that'll definitely help me going into it.
Well, that'd be exciting. So I know we're getting down just about to the end of the show. So I want to ask you, share your most memorable race with us. I know you've won in some big places, like I think Dover, and I think you also won at Bristol too. So what is your most memorable race?
I've got to go Bristol. You can't beat that place because as a kid, you're always hearing about and watching on TV, and you know that Bristol and Daytona are the two biggest tracks you can win at. And there's so much history behind Bristol and so much good racing, a place that favored Dale Sr. a lot. It's just so cool with knowing that all those guys raced there and had, all those tough battles, and to go and win really in any series, and even in K&N, to go win at Bristol is a really big deal.
Well, I know for myself, I know that Bill and I, we actually was able to go out and be at Bristol last year. Mm-hmm. It was kind of funny because I think Bill's first trip to Bristol, I'd been there many times. I'd always dreamed about like getting up in one of those suites to be able to watch the race. And, I take him, and it was like from the time we got there, the red carpets were rolled out. We were actually in Bruton Smith's suite. And I was just like, gosh, if I'd have known he had that kind of pull, I'd have taken him to races a lot further. But, we did it right, Kyle. If you remember, we did it right. We took him to Mobile, Alabama the first time. So he got to see what the real grassroots of it was like.
And the green flag, and it started the race, if you recall.
Right. He did throw the green flag. So the question is, did you guys have like a little signal working out where maybe he like gave you a little hand signal right before he threw the flag so you could get a better start?
None of that, right, Kyle? It was all...
We didn't work that out. We should have.
I was a rookie, though. You should have coached me a little bit better there.
I know. I missed out on that one. That was a good opportunity.
So, like I said, we're getting close to the end of the show. Kyle, anything that you want to share with the viewing audience, especially the young race car drivers that are looking in today, that if you could give them a couple of things just to give them maybe a little plus, something that would help them out?
You got to be patient, and you got to work hard at it. Making it to the top is not just about being a good race car driver. You have to be well-rounded. You got to be good at media. You've got to be good at, you got to know what the car needs. You got to get in the shop and learn about the car. And also you have to be good on your on-track stuff too. And patience and waiting for the right time and opportunity. And it takes a lot of luck along with it too. Being good is not the only thing that drives you to the top. You have to catch the right opportunity and hope that you get that shot.
Did I see something on your hand there when you raised your hand up? Do we have an injury?
We do.
Oh,
Let's see.
What happened?
Oh, no.
Is that something you can talk about, or you want to skip that part?
Yeah, I can talk about it. I actually dropped the weight on it at the gym, and so that happened. Out of everything I do, racing, snowboarding, and mountain biking, the way I hurt my hand is in the gym. So it's like I always tell my parents, you can hurt yourself doing anything.
Oh my gosh, I would say that's kind of funny, but I know that you'll be on the men very soon. Well, Kyle, I want to thank you for joining us. Good luck to you for the rest of the 2017 series. I hope you have a great race in Greenville. And, I know that you are definitely headed for stardom. We're going to be very proud one day to be able to say that you were our very, very first guest on the show.
I hope so. Thank you for having me on your show. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, Kyle, we'll talk to you real soon.
Kyle, really good to see you again. Thank you for being here today.
Good luck in Greenville.
I wish I could see you.
Yeah. Well,
you'll be able to see us when it plays back. So, again, I want to thank my good friend Bill Rasmussen for joining us on the show today. It is always a pleasure, Bill.
Thank you.
Sports today, as we know it, for you young kids that are out there, you have no idea what it would have been like if he would not have came up with the idea to create ESPN. So we would not be viewing sports today. It would not be as popular as it was today. And, the big thing is I think we've talked to a couple professional athletes before and had to kind of put them in their place a little bit, that they wouldn't have been able to make the money that they're making today if it
true.
wasn't for guys like
We
Bill.
wouldn't be here if it weren't for Bill.
So again, we want to thank all of you for tuning in. We're going to be here every single Thursday night at 8 o'clock as we share young racing talent with you that you may have never heard from. So if you're out there viewing and you're interested in being on one of our shows, you can go to racefacetv.com. There's a place for you to be able to fill out a form that says, I want to be on your show. We would love to have you. So Katie, you have anything you want to end up the show with tonight?
I mean, that's it. I'm really excited for everything that's going on. We're going to do big things here at Raceface, so you're not going to want to miss everything that's going on here.
Okay, again, everybody, thank you for being with us. We'll see you next week.